And we are live. We are live. We don't have no music, but we're going to make the music. We wait for people to come on into the salon, everyone. It's Friday. It's our happy hour. We're off of work. It's the weekend. Everybody raise your glasses. Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us for our happy hour live tonight. And we have a special guest because what? Her podcast episode was lit.
On fire.
We had to let you all see her pretty face. We have Tara Shelton in the Career Salon tonight. And we are talking about a subject matter that we have grown to love because Tara is like a mic dropper of knowledge when it comes to this subject, emotional intelligence. So let's give Tara a round of applause.
Hi, thank y'all for having me.
You're welcome. We want everyone to know we know and love you for over 20 years. We went to the Tennessee State University together. We are sisters, and you're so smart and
thank you. Keep going. Keep going.
But I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to have you introduce yourself to our audience and also tell them what emotional intelligence is so that everyone can understand while we get into the topic a little later.
Well, hello, everybody. This is my first Facebook Live. Yeah, this is my face too. And I am bringing you greetings from right outside of Atlanta in Jonesboro, Georgia. My name is Tara Shelton. And as mentioned, I met these lovely young ladies on the campus of the Tennessee State University, where I went back to school at 28 years old. So they were 18, I was 28. And just hone that skill of, I got my degree in special education because it was my love of working with children and started working with children and then recognized I ended up working with students with emotional and behavior disorders. And what I realized, they just didn't have the skills that they needed to be successful in the classroom.
Right.
And because those skills have to be taught.
Yeah.
We teach reading, we teach math, we teach science, we teach social studies, but we don't teach students how to behave. Mm-hmm. We punish when kids can't do what they need to do.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started getting into this. We need to be proactive around this. Let's stop being reactive with this work. And so we started this program, Social and Emotional Learning, with our new superintendent, Dr. Maria Kostarfin. And that's why I started to learn, this is it. This is it. This is what it's all about. And so in that work, I learned that there are 5 core competencies. Some people do 4, depends on, in the school system, we do 5 because we use the CASTLE framework. And it's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. And so those competencies are around the first 2, self-awareness and self-management, is looking inward. It's like knowing who I am. And then once I know who I am, how do I navigate this world?
Right.
And then the other 2 are external, our external relationships. Social awareness is this ability to look at other people's journey and accept it as their truth. And then you have relationship skills where I am in a coordinated, relationship with you. I'm in a, and I have this definition of relationship, by the way, it's a give and a gain. So I'm in a situation where I'm giving something and I'm in a situation where I'm gaining something. And I'm going to come back to that in just a second. And then we have responsible decision making, where you put all 4 of those together and then you make the choices that take you on this journey to the where you want to be, to this successful human being. Because what we learned is that this work wasn't just around children. Like, it's the adults who have to master these skills so they can model what it looks like for kids. And so that's where the Artistry of Being came about, because I recognize that, okay, if it happens in one school system, it obviously is happening all over the place. And I noticed it in my parenting, like, I need this work as a parent. And so I launched the Artistry of Being, which is creating the masterpiece that is authentically you. So that's where that launching. And I need to give a shout out to Dr. Wislin John, who put it on my tail. You need to get this done. And so I launched in September.
we are super proud of you for doing that. And
thank you.
yeah, and when you brought this subject up, when we were on another meeting about you were into this and you were doing training on it, and we were like, we want to get you on a podcast. We were going to get you on a podcast anyway, but since this was something that you were so connected with and you had experience with already training people, we thought this would be a good topic to bring up with our audience, because even with me in HR, I see the struggle with the different levels of emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And what that brings up and breeds in the work environment. And so I know on the podcast I mentioned like how I can have high emotional intelligence in some instances and also have low emotional intelligence in others. And I asked you, can it be that I possess those two things at the same time? And so I want to take that further.
Okay.
It seems to be that we can turn on and off emotional intelligence, the highs and lows. So I can have high emotional intelligence as a leader and with some leadership at my job, but when it comes to maybe my husband or my kids, it's low. So how do we balance that? Like, where does that come from? Are we turning it on and off, or is just areas that we need to work on and grow and
that so emotional intelligence is a continuum. It's not I've arrived. I've learned this skill, I've arrived. There's a continuum, and you are constantly learning how to navigate a particular space. And it's interesting because you're right. I can show up one way at work and then show up a different way at home. But what I'm trying to learn is, how do I show up in my best way all the time?
Yeah.
Now, where's that? Now, who is that person? So that's where that self-awareness comes in. The question was asked last time, how come I can do that? And why don't people take more of an initiative to really engage in this work? Well, because you got to pull back the layers and see who you really are. Baby, when you do that, you like that, you got to see, oh, when those people were saying this about me, damn, they were telling the truth. You got to pull that back and really see yourself for, you know what, if I behave this way with my husband, guess what? That's really who you are. You can pretend that he brought this out of you, but guess what? If he brought it out of you, where was it? Already in you. So it's who you are. Now, what if you don't like that part of you, but you like how you show up in HR? Well, then why do you choose to show up in HR that way and come home and be another way? What is it about the HR? And maybe in the HR position, you're not really showing your true self. Maybe you have put that mask on because I need to keep my job. But at home, there's a level of trust that you have with your spouse that you might show your true self. What happens when you get to know you and you decide that I don't like the way that shows up with him, and I don't have to worry about when I go to HR, I'm going to show up as my true self because I worked so hard that who I show up every single day is the same. Like, you're not going to get a different Carla at work and a different Camille at the house. You're not going to get that. You're going to get creating the masterpiece that is authentically you. If you find yourself behaving in a way that you don't like, why? And usually it is because I'm sorry to step on your toes, Ayana. I'm sorry. Take your shoes off. Don't have those tight heels on because they hurt when you take them off. Just take your shoes off. It's okay. But what I learned in this was, if that's in me, then what am I saying to myself that allows me to show up that way? Because that's where all of this comes from. As a man thinketh, so is he. So if I have a belief, like the reason why you might have an issue with your spouse is because he said something that you didn't like, and your expectation was he was going to behave this way. And when you don't behave this way, this is what you get.
Yeah.
This is what you get.
in that, and I was just using myself for a hypothetical example, everyone.
Oh, I'm sure it was not. And when I called your names, it was just because I could read them.
But in that, is it possible to fake emotional intelligence?
You know how people say that your who the imposter syndrome, who's really showing up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could bring your best self to the dates, and then you get married and you don't ever put on makeup again. So yes, you can learn what it takes to be successful as like I know how to. Oh, here's a prime example: diversity and inclusion.
Right.
Because I was going to ask about that.
Here's a prime example. I could fake that I'm really concerned about the perspective of others. I can fake that until it requires you to make a change in your policies. Until you have to confront a person at the job who is saying something that is inappropriate. Until you go out with your friends and they all have they say racist comments and you don't check them. But at work, you got your Black Lives Matter t-shirt on. You can fake it. And most of the time, and it's not that, and I'm going to use a different word than fake it. What it is that you haven't really maybe understood that layer. Because when you first start this work, you just hear, you surface. Like, I'm just learning a little bit about myself. Mm-hmm. Then you pull a little bit more back. Oh, got to learn a little more. Then you pull some more back. And maybe that person is just blind to what the next level they need to explore is. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they don't want to explore it because they're comfortable where they are. And once you take that blue pill, you can't go back. Mm-hmm. You can't go back.
So one of our, Gwen in our audience, she just made a comment, but as an African-American woman in the workforce, you have to show your strength. So I think that's why maybe it translates when you're at home, you can be vulnerable, like you said, because that trust is there and it's more openness and you feel like you can be more of yourself. And so
I think, well, I don't know where that person works. I've decided to be myself all the time. I've just decided, I've decided to be fiercely authentic all the time. Mm-hmm. And what I learned in that is that when I was choosing not to show who I am totally, it's because I didn't have the courage to do so. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm talking about for me, because I was deathly afraid if I showed that piece of me, somebody might not like it.
Yeah.
And I got to feed my family.
Yeah. So what does that say about a leadership or a company that doesn't allow the space for people to do that? Like, so what would you say to a leader that says we have this problem in our organization? I want to fix it. I want to change it. How do I take the steps to get there where I can communicate to people that here, you are free to be yourself. Here, that we're not going to discipline you for,
you have to be able to accept faulty behavior. Because you just got to be able to accept faulty behavior. You have to be able to accept people making mistakes and not showing up as perfect. Mm-hmm. You have to, and you learn from people not being perfect. You learn from people making mistakes. And if we had taught that in school, like if we taught kids, mm-hmm. I'm all right with you making a mistake. Now let's learn from that mistake. We don't teach that. We don't teach it's okay for you not to be right. We teach you need to be right all the time.
Mm.
And so if we started teaching, you actually learn from when you mess up. You actually learn from that. Hey, what did you get from that? I'm so proud that you weren't perfect this time. Because I can teach you when you're not perfect. If you know it all, I can't tell you.
I think leaders just don't want to take the time to teach if someone makes a mistake or anything like that. So that might be a hiccup that they encounter. Camille, were you going to ask a question?
No, I was just thinking about corporate America in general needs a whole emotional intelligence rework in general, because it's just like, was it UPS? Y'all just got it to let people be who they are at work and wear their natural hair and beards and the way that their hair grows up. Why did it take so long when you talk about like emotional intelligence and things like that, and we're talking about being our authentic self and like being ourselves at work, one of the things that is a problem in that scenario is we have these standards in the workplace, and it's like those standards never really included African Americans, people of color, people that were different. So let's say you have, like, Tara, you have braids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to professional appearance, who defined professional appearance from years ago? Who defined what professional appearance is? And
white men.
Yeah. So the emotional intelligence, everyone in corporate America, in the working world, needs to have that training, because the judgment in terms of whether your hairstyle is professional or not, right? That affects you during your work. That affects you in your performance reviews, you getting a promotion or anything like that. I just, I get upset when we talk about subjects like this, and this, because it just affects us so bad in the workplace. And that's why we really wanted to bring this topic to the table, because we need an overhaul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and we need an overhaul because it's crazy.
Even try to taint what emotional intelligence is, just the way they taint it, what professionalism is defined as. So say an organization says, oh yes, we're going to go with this emotional intelligence, we're going to train people, and depending on how they perceive what emotional intelligence is in their definition, and they put that this is what we expect in the workplace, then it's still a problem. Because then you're still not being your authentic self. You're being their definition that they told you that they would accept.
I agree. And that's where that implicit bias comes up. That's where I'm really excited that Castle, shout out to Castle, that's the group that we work with, Castle.org. They revamped their entire definition of emotional intelligence because they recognized the equity piece wasn't involved.
Yes.
And so now they have decided to include SEL as in service to equity. And so if you're not looking at how do you bring the different perspectives into the workplace, the schoolhouse, the home, you're right. What you're doing, then what you're doing is, I'm going to call it the new way to have the status quo perpetuated.
Yeah.
And the status quo doesn't include people of color, doesn't include women, doesn't include transgender. It doesn't include diversity. I'll say it that way. It doesn't include diversity.
Yeah.
And so SEL has been like, I want you to come to work. I want you to be quiet. I want you to do the work, and I want you to be happy about it. And that's, in that podcast, I heard myself and I was like, wait a minute, do I really want to have joy at the job all the time? Sometimes I might not need to have joy, because if there's something that's happening at this job place that needs to be corrected, I need to have the courage to be able to speak up on that. Yeah. And so when you say, how do you create this space? It starts with vulnerability. It starts with the leader with vulnerability. Because this question, what comes first, vulnerability or trust? Mm-hmm. I was on this, I wish I can give a shout out to whom it was, but I was on a podcast, a conference. And the person said, what comes first, vulnerability or trust? And the majority of the people said trust comes first. Vulnerability comes first. You got to be open to, and vulnerability means I'm open to you seeing the raw pieces of me that aren't perfect. So when I open that up and show you that part, and so the trust comes into, how do you react when I show you something that look like you want it to look? That's when the trust comes in. Do you hold me or do you throw me? Ooh. That's when the trust comes in.
Wow. Tara, can people learn? Can emotional intelligence be taught?
Completely.
Okay.
That's what we do. We teach people. Like, for instance, I'm gonna talk about with me. when I'm doing my presentations or doing my training, I have people to look at their thoughts, because the narrative that you play in your head is how you act. Mm-hmm. So when you start, and let me tell you the narrative I played in my head. I grew up in the South. Mm-hmm. My mom is from Birmingham, Alabama. Mm-hmm. My mom attended the 16th Street Baptist Church and played with some of the young girls who were killed in the bombing. I come from, you close your mouth, you do what's told, and you don't make waves. Though she participated in civil rights and she was part of that, it still was this underlining, you don't make waves. Yeah. And so that's been a struggle for me in trying to break forth and have my voice being heard in the room, because I still hear you don't make waves. Because making waves back then got you killed. See, it's not just making waves where you now go viral and people pick you up and you seen as a hero. Back then, making waves got you killed. Yeah. And so I'm in a place where, how do I have that same amount of courage that's required to make change? Because I don't want to make waves. I want to make waves that create change.
Yeah. Right.
So I want to get into some good trouble. Rest in peace, John Lewis. Yeah. I want to get into some good trouble. But I still got to fight in my head when I'm telling myself, you're a little black girl from the South. Do you really know what you're talking about? Can you really go in front of these people and tell them? And I'm starting to say to myself, hell yeah, I can. Yeah. And why not? Mm-hmm. Why not me? Why not me?
So speaking of teaching emotional intelligence, I know you can be trained. I know you can read a book, but can certain events in your life teach you emotional intelligence? So I, for example, had a situation at work and it really taught me something about myself, and it made me adjust the way that I move at work, or I could have the same thing happen at home. Some particular event happen with my kids or whoever, or even with Camille, and it made me rethink some things. So can people, if they reflect, can people be taught by the situations in their lives or in the workplace that happen?
So you don't ever learn unless there's an emotional connection to it. And that can happen anywhere. Unless you connected to it emotionally, there's no learning taking place. So there has to be an emotional connection to it. You might be able to spew some information back, but true learning takes place when there's an emotional connection to it. So whatever happened to you, you connected to that emotionally, which created a change. So yes, an experience can be a catalyst to you. I need to, there's a shift. There's a paradigm shift. And what happened was at that point, you looked at your thinking, and it was probably done subconsciously. That thought that you originally believed, you didn't hold that anymore. Right. So now you replace that, you reframe it with a different thought. And once you reframe it with a different thought, it causes you to move differently.
Right.
I have a not funny question, but I'm just curious. So you've worked with adults in this space as well as preschoolers, little kids, right? Who is best at dealing with emotional intelligence and absorbing it?
Kids.
Kids?
Well, that's because they're not tainted by their experiences.
Yeah.
See, they're not tainted by their experiences. If you come, that's why I love working with children. If you come with them with truth, that's what they can read. They can read your energy. See, they read your energy well.
Yes.
And they don't try to listen. They might be mad at you for the first 30 minutes, and then they over it and they moved on. You get a hold out a popsicle, y'all all good. Adults, you mess around and say the wrong thing, you're done. You're done. And you got to weed through all the shit they've been through. Oh, can we curse on this?
You sure?
I'm sorry, let me not curse. You get all the baggage that people are carried because of the experiences that they had. You got to weed through all of that.
Yeah.
And so the most kids don't have that. The issue with why it may be more difficult to teach students is because it's not worldwide. It's not global. It's not what everybody does. And so they may not be accustomed to it. And they may not feel like they need it. But if you teach it through play, or teach it through stories, or teach it through how you teach any other subject, it just becomes a part of who they are, and they don't even realize that they're learning. With the adults, you got to wade through, this is experience, that experience, and then if you say something the wrong way, it might present it as a trigger. So then you got to wade through that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. Like, so is it possible to get emotional intelligence burnout? So I'm always the one that's the mature one in the situation. I'm always the one to lead the group at work. I'm always the one to put my feelings aside and not cry and not fall apart and get the work done, have the critical and crucial conversation with who I need to have it with, where everybody else is in the corner shivering like, oh my God, you're gonna do that? Yes, I am. Like, what is wrong with y'all? And you're constantly doing that. Is it possible to get burnout because you're like always the one? So
the idea that just because you have emotional intelligence that your life is going to be perfect, that's a misnomer. So yes, you can. So I want to use the word that you can overextend yourself because you feel like you are the one who needs to be taking care of all of it. And a big part of emotional intelligence is your self-care. Like, maybe you don't need to be the one that's handling this at this time. Maybe you don't have to be in charge and control of everything that happens. Maybe you don't need to, and if you do, so you gotta know your why. And your why can't be saving everybody. Like, that is not necessarily emotional intelligence, because you out here saving the world and wearing a cape every day and making sure everything runs as it should. That's not emotional intelligence, because that might not be your lane. Your lane, what is your lane in this? And this is the part that I need to be. This is what I need to master. And I can't handle all of that. And then you lead by example, and then other people will step up. If you keep doing it for them, that's not emotional intelligence. That's enabling, because you don't get other people the ability to walk in what they could be walking in. But that comes from trust. That comes from you trusting that they're going to do what they need to do. And if they've proven to you one time that they didn't, you may not trust them again. But remember we talked about, how come we can't let other people fail? Why does it have to be our status? Why does it have to be according to my expectations? Why can't I believe that the way that they bring it is enough?
Wow.
It may not look how you want it to look.
Look, I want to, and maybe I'm not gonna connect these two things. Maybe they're not supposed to be connected, but I kind of think they should. We just talked about on our Career Salon Minute on Instagram how to prepare for your performance review. And we really think from an HR perspective, performance reviews should be different. They shouldn't be the standard way that most organizations give them. What are some ways that leaders can incorporate emotional intelligence in the way that they give employees performance reviews? Because it, like, the way that they're doing it now, I feel like is not helping people develop. Most of the time they're asking you, can you fill out your performance review? And
get back to me.
I edit. So it's really not a good exchange anyway. And then the conversation just comes from resentment of you continuing to be hands off, even by making me do my own performance review. And then you come in and just bash me. That's a performance review these days.
And so I think the whole way we do business, period, needs to be revamped. So let's just start there, because it's so difficult not to get disconnected in seeing the humans that do the work. And if we can consider these are human beings that are doing this work. So my performance review should be around how am I walking in this journey, and what do I need to be successful in that? And can I set up that? So I'm working with a group, and we had to do this challenge. And so he kept, and it was real, like, you need to do this on this day at this time and this. And then what I said was, I need to know the why behind it. Like, I need to know why I can't read daily, because that's what I wanted my challenge to be. I wanted to start reading professionally daily. So he's like, just set a timer. There's a block as to why I can't read daily. What I realized was, I don't believe I can give myself that time to read daily. And why? Because I don't believe that reading is important as it should be. Now, that doesn't sound good, but that's reality. Because if I believed it was important, I would do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what now? Why don't I believe it's important? Because I've been taught you got to be doing stuff. Sitting back and getting some information for myself that I may share with somebody and I may not, that hasn't been shown as being important. When do people go to your office and say, hey, go ahead and take an hour and read? Take an hour during this time and read. It's not. And so all those skills that we need to develop ourselves usually don't look busy. And so if it doesn't look busy, people feel like you're not working. So me sitting and meditating because I need to breathe, that doesn't look busy. So that if you're not busy, then you quote unquote not productive. But the reality is, if you gave me 10 minutes to meditate so I could clear myself, then I'm not busy, but I'm productive. So that grind culture, that's what we need to get rid of. Yeah. And then people could settle back into what actual clarity is. Then if I can be clear about who I am, I can be clear about this work I need to do, and I can bring my purpose to the job as opposed to my numbers. Forget the numbers. If I work in my purpose, you're going to get the numbers. Mm-hmm. You'll get the numbers because I'm doing it out of the love that I have for the work. Mm-hmm. And it's no longer a job. Like, I got work to do, or I got a job to do. I got work to do, and work changes lives. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're selling Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A got it. Because the way that they show up is that I see every last one of you. Every last one of you, I see you. And while I'm getting your order, I'm connected to you. And nobody else matters. I'm connected to just you. And everybody in that organization is seen as a pivotal member of the organization. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you do.
You're right. People can say what they want. Carla just used Chick-fil-A as an example.
You didn't want me to.
Their presentation, because they could be controversial. They got some backlash. I totally agree with what you just said about how they show up, how they treat people as human beings, and how you can see that reflected in the way that they treat their customers. You are 100% right.
And I don't agree with all their views. Yeah. I don't agree with all their views, but I still have to respect their standard. Right. And that's where the social awareness piece comes in. I might not agree with everything you do, but hey, I'm put some respect on it. I'm put some respect on it.
I just went there today to get my kids some French fries, and the young guy came out and was like, "I love are those the new Apple AirPods? Do you like those?" I was like, "Oh, okay." They always find a way to get in there and connect. That is an organization that reflects high emotional intelligence. So I have a question. So we have people that are watching this video.
Hey, y'all.
They're working for companies that may be on the low end on emotional intelligence. They don't.
Not all of them.
Yeah, they may work at some organizations that don't have those same standards and values, and they don't care about whether it's reflected to the people, their clients or their customers. But as an employee, they want to tell their organization, maybe we should look into this. Maybe we should have more training on emotional intelligence. It might make our workplace better. What are some of your suggestions of ways they can bring it up to their manager or to their leaders to say, hey, we need this?
I think the best way to do that is look at the vision and the mission statement. Mm-hmm. Because people always talk about the vision and the mission statement guides the work that they do. Mm-hmm. I bet you in any vision and mission statement, there is some level of what you asking me to do requires some emotional intelligence. So if they say we're here to serve our customers, I can't serve somebody without some level of emotional intelligence.
Right.
So in that mission and vision statement, you know what, we really could probably do better on making sure we are meeting the mission and the vision if we had the skills around what it takes. Yeah. One of the main skills in emotional intelligence is the ability to communicate. So if we're talking about serving and having this wonderful customer service, then I need to know how to talk to the customers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you can use your mission and vision statement, look and see, you know what, the skill that's related to that, the skill that's behind that is self-awareness. The skill that's behind that is relationship skills. The skill that's behind that is responsible decision making. You know what? If we really invested in emotional intelligence, we probably could hit that mission and vision statement much better than what's happening.
Yeah.
Because all of the things that you're asking to do on a job require some level of emotional intelligence.
Right.
To talk to somebody, that requires some level of emotional intelligence, especially when the customer is irate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. So I have a question. Sorry, did you have a question?
Go ahead, Carla.
So we just did a podcast this week. It's called Per My Last Email.
Mm-hmm.
So, some of us, I would be guilty a lot because I'm a perfectionist. I like to get work done. You taking 3 days to reply to my email or not replying at all, it bugs me. It burns my grits. So I have been a frequent per my last email type of person. But as I mature in my career for the last like 5-6 years, I can maybe do one per my last email, then I'm coming to your office. So we have that per my last email type of culture in the workplace where we don't say what we mean and we do it passively aggressively to walk on eggshells, to not offend other people, to not have a conflict in conversation. What are some of the skills that we're missing to say, scratch the per my last email? I'm about to redirect and do it a different way. I'm going to approach this a different way. When people don't respond or they don't follow up, what are some ways that we can do that differently?
Put yourself on the other side of the email. Like, put yourself on the other side of the email. What has there ever been a time when you couldn't respond for whatever reason that was? Has there ever been a time? I had road rage, something bad, something terrible. And I was in a training and the person said to me, because I don't let people in my lane. That was my whole, this is my lane. I'm riding. And if it's not my fault that you coming off, you should have learned. You listen, you should have read it said a mile and a half. You should have read where it said a mile and a half ago. Don't come up in my lane. So that person, he said to me, what if they had an emergency and they had to get off? That shifted. Remember I talked about the paradigm shift? Yeah. That shifted completely. So now what I say is, let me have a little bit of empathy. What if what I'm believing about them is not really true? What if my belief that they suck, they just hadn't responded, what if that's not really true? What if the truth of the matter is they're doing the best that they can and they may be struggling? Now, does that mean that you let people go? No. That means you have a conversation with them. You go to them and say, hey, what is it that you need? How can I support? Because this is what I need to get done. How can I support you in that work? You don't leave the expectation. Mm-hmm. So this is what there's this belief possibly that if you go to people and have this conversation with them, you might water down, like, if you don't. Okay, so if I say to you, you didn't turn your email in on time, that now, they're just not going to turn their email on time all the time. They're just lazy, whatever. That's not true. People, you can hold your same level of expectation for them, but you might need to change your level of support. Mm-hmm. Like, this person always turns their stuff in on time, so you don't have to worry about them. But this other person may need a level of support. But because in our grind society, we can't ask for help, that person is sitting over there scared to tell you that they don't have what you need. They're scared to tell you they don't have what you need. And so they just sit back and pray it just goes away. If you go to them and say, hey, I still need what I need, how can I support you in that? You need to give it to me. But what support do you need in that? And then that person, and this is what I've learned, and I'm telling you from what I've learned. I've had people say, nobody knows this, but my grandmother just passed away, and I don't know what to do with it. So I'm trying to get this work done, but I'm struggling in this. If you could just give me another day. And what happens, remember I talked about vulnerability and trust. Vulnerability and trust. You came to them vulnerable and saying, hey, I need this from you. They were able to meet you with what's happening. Because now if you come to them and say, didn't I tell you I need my stuff? Where's my stuff?
That's what we want. Most people want to say.
But we don't.
Per my last email, give me my
yes.
But if you go to them and say, hey, this is not, let's say it is representative of them. Like they do this all the time. Hey, we got to get this work done. And I want to work with you just as much as you want to work with me. Let's get the work done. But I need to know what can I do to support you? They can give you what they need. Now, most people won't ask for help. Do you know that's the biggest issue? Asking for help. When the last time you asked somebody for help? Yeah, I'm asking you. When's the last time you asked somebody for help?
Today, I asked Camille for help.
Besides your sister, at your self job, at your own self job, when's the last time you asked somebody for help?
I asked for help.
Good.
But I asked for help from close friends.
Yeah.
And family. Not necessarily. No, I take that back because, okay, as a recruiter, I feel like that's how I've learned to ask for help, right? Because I know the game. So the past 2 jobs that I've had, 3 jobs that I've had, I've asked people, that's how I got interviews. That's how I got the job. I asked for help, like directly to the person that's hiring. So
previous to HR, would you have asked for help? Because now you've learned that that's what you need to do. Or do you notice that people don't ask for help even though they need it?
Oh, yes, we notice that. But you know, does it matter? Like sometimes I feel like I ask for help because of the perfectionist in me. So I always will have the humility to, if I don't know something, I'm going to find a person that does. I'm going to ask for help. Because one, I'm not going to hold myself up by trying to figure it out. This is not my wheelhouse, but I want to show strength and show that I got the goods. So I'm going to figure it out on my own when it'll take me a week, when I can just go ask the person that actually knows what they're doing and they're the subject matter expert, and I can get the answer in 2 seconds. So I do it from a place of, I want to get my own stuff done.
But Carla, do you know how many people sit and won't ask?
Most people. To me, it's like walking around the grocery store and you looking for Jell-O. You don't know which aisle, so you walking down every aisle
and you pass 2 employees.
The Kroger employee is right there, and you could ask, "Why are you wasting time? Where does that come from? Why won't people ask? Just because of fear,
vulnerability." And the fear of remember the vulnerability, that's the first step. And how you respond to me is my level of trust that I'm going to have. So now I got to show you that I'm not perfect. We don't have a culture where people can show that they're not perfect.
Ooh.
So we asking for help is seen as a weakness when in reality, when actually it is there it is. Some people believe asking for help is a sign of weakness. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say, Chiquita. Some people believe asking for help is a sign of weakness, and that is the most courageous place you can be, is when you say, I don't know the answer, but I believe that you do, and I trust you for the help.
But you know, a lot of employers, they may, and I get it sometimes in a workplace, because a lot of managers will be like, you had to ask that person for help to do that.
Yep.
And they will ding you.
But why?
Like you don't know how to do your job. Because you're going to different people to get pieces and putting them together to do your job. Which
listen to how wonderful that sounds.
that's beautiful to me.
Isn't that beautiful?
But they think it's okay. You don't know how to do your job. You're inadequate. That's how they approach some people,
and that's what they put in your performance review.
And you know what? And the reality of it is, those are the inadequate people, because they probably should be asking and doing some more and getting some more, because there's somebody over in a different department that's doing it better than you. Walk over there and ask them, so we don't have to be doing this bull that you asking us to do that nobody else is doing. Go ask them. Go ask them and stop, because we know you don't know what you're doing. That's why your performance review doesn't look like it. And we know that you up here struggling like the rest of us are. But I'm going to go ahead and ask somebody who knows while you sitting up here pretending that you do. No, I don't have time for that. Like, I don't have, and I'll say this to somebody. Can you do that, Tar? Yeah, no, that's not for me. I think my coworker would do that a little bit better. Yeah, that's her work.
A lot of people don't like to relinquish control. Yes.
You can have it. I'm 50. You can have it.
And
it's only because if I work in my strengths and the little bit of weakness that I know that I have a little more control of. Now I don't want to use the word control, that I have that's not so detrimental to me.
Yeah.
I can get more done.
Yeah.
And then if I can give this work over to that sucks for me, but this person loves it.
Yeah.
Let them do it.
I know our sister, our good friend and sister Joy Jackson of Speaking of Joy.
Hey, Joy.
Yeah, she was on this platform several months ago, and she was saying that I think we've been conditioned to turn every weakness into a strength, when actually I can just focus on the strengths I have, work in that, and let people that actually have strengths where I have weaknesses, let them do that.
It's so beautiful when it happens that way. It's so beautiful when it happens that way. Oh my gosh. And everybody's happy because the person who is working in your weakness, but it's their strength, they're doing what works for them.
Yeah.
You're doing what works for you. And it's symbiotic. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. And I'm not pulling myself trying to be who I'm not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So remember, we talked about a relationship being a give and a gain.
Yeah.
Right. So I want everybody to think about all the relationships that they're in right now. If you're not giving in that relationship, guess what? You're the abuser, because you're taking advantage of somebody. And if you're in a relationship where all you're doing is, if you're in a relationship where all you're doing is gaining, somebody's just giving to you, then you're the abuser. If you're in a relationship where all you're doing is giving to somebody, you're being abused. If it's not a give and a gain in a relationship, move on. And that's how it should be at work. It should be, I'm with somebody where I'm giving to them and I'm gaining from them.
Yeah.
And you just saying a word.
And if I'm not gaining from you,
on that one.
If I'm not gaining from you, this is abusive. This relationship is abusive because we are not both getting what we need. This relationship is abusive. It's an abusive relationship. And that's what it feels like. When you talk about burnout, that's what it feels like. It feels like I'm going to a job being abused. And I don't want to take abuse. I don't want to use that word, but I mean it, because that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like you're being drained. You're being sapped of all the energy that you have. It feels like you're being taken advantage of. That's what it feels like.
People, I know so many people, just because I'm in recruiting and I talk to a lot of people. I know so many people that stay at a job for 20 years and they don't get promoted. They get treated poorly, and they stay there because it's their comfort zone and they just are comfortable and they're never going to leave, but they are daily being abused. Like you said, they're not gaining anything, but they're still able to just be over here in the corner in their comfort zone. And I hate it for them, because I can't do that.
I wish I could say that I had always had the courage to step out of my comfort zone.
I was about to ask you about that.
I can't say that's true. I cannot say that's true. It took me a while to believe that I had the right to step out of my comfort zone.
Hmm.
It took me a while to believe that. And I have been on this journey in the last 3-4 years where I am saying that you are enough. I did not believe that about myself. I didn't believe that about myself. I did not believe that I am enough. I did not. And so I even have people give me this stuff all the time at work. Like my friend Josette, she gave me a photo that says you are enough, because I had to keep saying that over and over and over again. You know that Marianne Wilson's "Who are you not to be to shine?" Yeah. I did not believe that you should shine. And so kudos to Y2 Cute, because I saw my line sisters doing all of this and doing all that, and I was like, wow, it can be done.
Yeah.
I didn't believe that. Like, I did not believe it. And where does that come from? And I can't say it came from my parents. I think it came from being in a school system that was segregated, that didn't see children of color in their full scope. But I did have some really good Black teachers that kind of pushed me towards, yes, you can do this and you can do that. But it wasn't fully realized. I did not fully realize that. And so I'm going to do a presentation called Your Presence is the Present.
Now that sounds good.
Yeah. And it's about self-actualization. It's about really seeing that you are the gift. You are the gift. Not just the fact that you walk on this earth, that you take up space, is a gift. Now, what gift do you bring in your earthly gift body? Now you got to go a little deeper and say, there's something about me that's unique.
Yeah.
And so people that sit on those jobs, they don't realize the uniqueness that they have, that they can go someplace else where somebody will honor your uniqueness.
Yeah.
I'm stuck. And people have been stuck for years. People get stuck in marriages. People get stuck on their jobs. People get stuck in their, listen, and your family can be abusive and they don't have conversations with their parents who say things about them that shouldn't be said.
Yeah.
People get stuck being in as a parent. People get stuck and they don't know how to move past being stuck.
Yeah.
And a good place to start, a good place for you to help with your emotional intelligence, go to therapy.
Yes.
Go to therapy so you can uncover those layers of yourself. If you don't have your own emotional intelligence coach, go to therapy. Counselors do a really good job. This is their work. They do a really good job of it, pulling back those layers.
Yeah.
People don't see their unique self and don't believe it. And a big part of it is, sure, we live in a society that pushes people down and marginalizes them. So and it's helpful. Like, we need people not to see themselves as great, because if those people see themselves as great, they're gonna fight the system. We don't want you fighting the system. We don't want you to realize your power.
Yeah. Wow.
That's so good.
So I have one more question, and you may say have the same answer that you just said for that question, but we talk to a lot of people about personal branding. And even when it's not our conversation and I'm in another conversation with somebody that's facilitating, and it's their business, and a lot of people have problems, and we talk about your elevator pitch, how to represent yourself. A lot of people have problems talking about themselves. So that leads them to having problems with interviewing and talking about all their accomplishments and things that they've done. They feel guilty for, I'm going to brag on myself. I'm going to talk about my accomplishments and I did this and I did that. I can't do that. Well, it's an interview, so that's what they're expecting, and that's how you sell yourself. What are some of the blockers that's causing, and this is not rare. It's a lot of people.
Oh, no, it's all the time.
Yeah, they have issues with this, aside from counseling or therapy, aside from, reading a book. What else can they do to get
affirmations?
What?
Affirmations about you, not I'm here to conquer. I Good, Ayana. I've been working with my affirmations. I remember mine was I am enough.
Yeah.
I had to keep saying it till I believed it. Like I am enough. And you know what? Ask a child to give a compliment about themselves. Can't do it. We don't teach our kids to do that. Like we think about we are conditioned to correct people when they do things wrong. We're not conditioned to praise kids when they do things right. Like it's usually we actually have this in it's hey, can you do 4 good to 1 bad? Can you say 4 good things to the child before you say something bad? Where we are like, you need to be doing this. You should have been doing that. Why you didn't do this? Why you didn't do that? As opposed to you bring this. Oh, look at you. You're special. You bring this. Speak life into people. If you continue to speak life, guess what flows out? Life. If you continue to speak criticism, guess what flows out? Criticism. Judgment. Being judgmental. If you speak life, that's what flows out. Peace. If you speak all those, that's what flows out. That's not what we speak to each other.
Yeah.
That's not what we speak. And it's always tainted. Even if we do try to, it's tainted. But you cute, but you know, it's always tainted. So everything you said prior to that. So we haven't been conditioned to talk about ourselves in ways that are positive. Because if you do, you're braggadocious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What if it's okay for you just to acknowledge the beauty that you have, and you say it in a way that doesn't say I'm better than you, but I do recognize that who I am is powerful. I'm not better than you, Carla. I'm not. But your eyes look good tonight, but so do mine. You know, so yeah, why can't it be a level of I appreciate the wonder in you as I notice the wonder in myself?
Yeah.
And I can't notice the wonder in you if I don't see it in myself.
Yeah.
So we haven't taught our kids to see the wonder in them. We don't. There's a book out, Goldie Muhammad, and she talks about like anti-racist education, and the actual name of her book is Cultivating Genius. We don't cultivate genius, especially in our community. We don't cultivate that, you know, and that is because if we shined, if we had kids that shined on a slave plantation, then guess what? They were taken, they were kidnapped, they were sold. So we used to try to hide and put them down and, put them to the corner because we didn't want anybody to come and steal them. That stuff is generational.
Yeah.
So now we into this habit of no, push your wonder back. Don't let anybody see your amazement because you could be kidnapped, sold, stolen. And now we got to get back to the place where no, we come from kings and queens, and it is okay to sit up straight and walk in a room and own it.
Yeah.
Own that room. Because you're right. The people in that room are sitting to want to know that you believe in yourself enough that they can bring you to this company. If you don't believe in yourself, why should I believe in you?
Right. Yeah.
And this is a journey for me. Like tomorrow, I might be like, dang, I don't know if I should have said that. Like I'm still working on, everything you said you should have said because it came out your mouth. And that's exactly what you should have said. Taryn, that was for you. Taryn Lacey, that was for you.
I mean, it's so good because me and Carla, we didn't know we were building our emotional intelligence, but just doing something like this, we've been doing happy hours and live videos for what, Carla, like 6 months, 7 months?
Yeah.
We don't like speaking in front of people, right? We don't feel like it's a strength of ours. We don't like being out there like that. You know, we have out there personalities, but that's behind the scenes. That's not in front of everybody, you know? And so for us, this is what our best friends, Rashonda, she says, this for us, this is doing it scared. So this is us building emotional intelligence. We still scared.
Yeah, we still scared.
But we doing the work. So I want to encourage everybody out there to like listen to you talk about, you know, owning it and stuff like that. But if you have to do it scared, just do it scared.
Do it scared. Right. So, you know, I'm nervous before I speak every single time. Like I can't
every single time.
I can't breathe. I'm shaking, sweating. I'm nervous every single time. And you know what I say? This is what I say. Lord, take me out of this because this is not about me. It's not about me. But I do know that there are people out here struggling and suffering because there is a lack of emotional intelligence. There is a lack of honoring who I am as a person and honoring the other people in this world. I see it.
Mm-hmm.
People are losing their minds, having dreadful conversations, not showing love. We need this work.
Yeah.
We need this work. We need this work.
Because we want you all to share this video.
Yep.
Tell friends to watch it on a replay. Y'all are probably like, y'all are beating this dead horse to the. Y'all done had a podcast. Now y'all having a live, and look, we might have another live. I don't know.
I'll be here for it.
This is so important. And when we had the podcast, and even talking to Tara about it before we recorded the podcast, I see this as the underlying issues in so many organizations and workplaces and teams. This lack of emotional intelligence, it's detrimental to the employee population in some organizations, and we really need to spread the word. So guys, have a watch party on your personal page, forward it to somebody. You can email Tara if you want her to teach us a small group. She can do small groups. She can do your organization, one-on-one consultation. Just email her, the Artistry of Being at gmail.com. Catch her on Instagram. She's going to get more active on Instagram.
I have one post, so that really is me. It really is me.
Catch her on LinkedIn, Tara Shelton, and go back and listen to our podcast, because this was a little different conversation than we had on our actual podcast with Tara. Yeah. So please go and listen to her episode and share, like I said. And we want to thank you so much, Tara. What you're doing is good work. Good work. And you are the perfect person to do this type of thing.
Yep.
You represent everything good to us. We love you so much. And thank you for agreeing to be on our platform. You didn't hesitate. You were like, okay, let's go. Let's do it. So thank you so much. Thank you all that watched tonight and commented, all in the audience. Thank you so much for being here. We don't take for granted that you could have been doing something else. And we will see you on the next happy hour or lunch break. Bye.